I plan to go to law school after I graduated, but looks like my folks won't have enough money to put me through college.
Well, the world needs ditch diggers, too.
Lord, I was called ditch digger man, paving for a living and doing the best I can. Discovered entrepreneurship, scaling business plans. Then I became the CEO, man. Are you ready to be mentored by some of the best minds in entrepreneurship in the world? Then you're listening to the right podcast, Ditch Digger CEO. We're going to be interviewing CEOs and founders who will be telling their amazing, rags to riches stories. These entrepreneurs who dominate the industries they serve will be sharing the secrets to their success. We'll be talking to millionaires and billionaires, many who started with nothing. You're going to be mentored with golden nuggets of shared experiences from my guest, whose time is worth thousands and even tens of thousands of dollars per hour. I started in the paving business right out of high school, and with no college education, mentorship has been my education of choice. I started over 25 companies in the last 20 years, have generated over $1.5 billion in revenues. My guarantee is this: if you listen to Ditch Digger CEO and you want to be more successful, you will become more successful. The secrets of my success and for many of the world's greatest business leaders will be revealed. Let Ditch Digger CEO mentor you. All right, we're here today with Ditch Digger CEO with our producer and friend Chris and my buddy Quentin from True Mentors, and we got a buddy of mine here today that's just a blast of a guy.
Man,
I've known Ryan for about pushing 9-10 years now, probably 10 years now. 2009, got in YPO. I met you early on there, and I love a lot of things about Ryan. I love his competitive nature. I love being able to kick his butt once in a while and some stuff that we compete in. But then, of course, I got to take it too because he's pretty competitive and pretty good at a lot of stuff. But Ryan, welcome today, buddy. Welcome to be here. Welcome to be here with us, and we're gonna have a lot of fun.
thank you for having me. I'm excited.
And Ryan came today with a friend of his, Jacob, and Jacob is Isaacson, right? Is working with operations with the family foundation that you're going to be building, right?
Correct.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. And you're going to hear from Ryan and his journey in business, his entrepreneurship journey, the competitive nature in him that's driven him to some really cool success in a dirty business, which I love dirty businesses because I think that's where when we bring technology and intelligence into dirty businesses, it's easier to be successful than being a heart surgeon or something like that, right? Being an entrepreneur as a heart surgeon, probably a little more difficult than trucking and paving and things that we're all about. So we maybe we're after low hanging fruit and dirty businesses, but we got a lot in common there. So Ryan, I want you to introduce yourself, and we're going to ask for your kind of an elevator of your history from the time you were a kid to the time you entered the business world.
Wow. Let's just start with that. I've been in the logistics business pretty much my whole career since I got out of college. I worked for a company called American Backhaulers, was started by an entrepreneur named Paul Daube. And Paul sold his business about 4 months into my tenure of 2.5 years of being there.
Wow.
For a lot of money. And a publicly traded company took over, and they changed our compensation program about 3 different times over that 18 months, all for the worse, while the guy next to me was looking at ESPN for hours on the day. I'm sitting there grinding, and then they're cutting, here's 10 grand, here's 10 grand. So eventually it was sort of like, I don't know what's going to come tomorrow. And we started thinking about the idea of starting a business, and we were like the 7th or 8th spin-off of this company, and they had never sued, or no one had come after them for a non-compete in such a strong level. And after about 12 months, 18 months, C.H. Robinson was suing me, and so we started dealing with the stresses of being an entrepreneur.
So you spun off in about 2 years.
I started in August of '99, and we started our business in January of '03. So It was a quick tutorial. I would say that I worked as hard, if not harder, than anybody else in the business. There was a few people that might have been crazier than me, but being the competitor I quickly became like one of the top 2-3 sales guys in a pretty big organization, and basically said, "Oh, wait, I can make as much money as I want as long as I'm willing to work hard. I get a commission." And so then they changed the compensation a couple different times. They're taking money here, taking money there. And it started to get pretty frustrating because I was, the rules just continued to change. And it was like, hey, it's not like, hey, in 3 months, we're going to change our compensation. It's like, hey, next week, we're going to change your commission program. It's like,
wow.
So they lost, I guarantee you, they lost well over $1 billion of productivity in just mismanagement of people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're a young guy at that point, what, 26 or something like that? 24?
Oh, when I started the company?
No. When you started your company,
25,
you made the decision to run off on, go off on your own.
Yeah.
At 25 years old. What gave you the confidence? I mean, I know your competitive nature and all that, but what gave you that? What created that in your younger age, your younger days at home or whatever? Tell me about that, because you're a gritty guy, and you didn't grow. I don't know that you grew up in a gritty environment, right?
No, I think I grew up actually in a very gritty environment.
Tell me about that.
Well, my dad traveled a tremendous amount growing up. He was gone. I would call us. We built a nice house in Bannockburn, but I think that for all intents and purposes, my dad, we were house poor in the sense that we were he was always chasing it to pay for it. And my mom was a bit of a handful, I would say. I'm sorry, Mom, if you're listening, but
she was tough or what?
Oh yeah, she was tough. Whether it's throwing shoes across the kitchen island or whatever it was going to be because I said or did something wrong. It was wait till your dad comes home. I'm like, please let my dad come home. So I saw, with my dad sort of being absent a lot, I basically made my mind up that there was no way as a dad that I would be absent. So I worked as hard as I could, as fast as I could to try to achieve a place where life was sort of up to me.
Was your mom tough on you? Mom and dad tough on you as far as expectations, academically, athletically, anything like that? I mean,
academics came out fast because I was a pretty good student. And like in 8th grade, I had a class of 15. I was in Bannockburn School, class of 15, kindergarten through 8th grade. I was like the point guard in 5th grade, the center in 8th grade. So not a lot of competition, to say the least. Going up into a high school with 350 people that I was really enthusiastic, to be social with. So football season, 2-a-day practices. This teacher basically said to me, the supervisor, guidance counselor said, hey, you shouldn't take this class, you should take this class. You shouldn't take this class, you should take this class. And I was like, I kind of felt challenged. Like, I'm like, no, you're wrong. Like, I can do this. This isn't going to be hard, and I'm going to prove otherwise. It was the biggest mistake. I had, like, in my first biology test, the teacher basically gave me 21% and basically wrote, "This is BS" on top of it. And so it was like it came to a conversation. My parents, like, were arguing with each other about whether I should be able to drop that class so I could go into a good college, or if I should see that class through because I made my bed and I should lie in it. And I still wonder if my dad, like, purposefully took the side of the argument and then lost so that it seemed like my mom was being supportive of me. But needless to say, I dropped the class. And my reason for getting into college was probably decent test scores and an upward curve is what they called it. So my grades got better, but I hated high school. I mean, it was really not fun. I was really happy to get into college. Let's put it that way.
Any sports and stuff in high school?
I dabbled. I played football. My first 2 years.
What high school is that?
I went to Deerfield High School.
Okay, yeah.
And I ended up, after my freshman year's football season, I was a decent basketball player, not as good as obviously you, Quentin, but I was a decent basketball player. I thought I probably could have made the A or the B freshman team, but my parents made me focus on my grades instead. So no sport winter of my freshman year, and then I was in the pool because I had the flu for a week. This is just show you when you talk about beating me and different things. Watch out for me in the pool. You might be surprised.
Oh yeah.
I was making up gym sessions after I had the flu for like a week, and after school, and the swim coach sees me in the pool. He's like, "Have you ever considered swimming?" I'm like, "Well, I didn't really think I was that good." He's like, "Would you like to finish the season with us?" So I'm like, "Why don't you let me make a phone call?" So I called my parents, and basically said, can I swim the last 3 weeks of the season? And they're like, sure, why not? So I swam. This is how my dad tells the story. I swam like the 50 free and ended up winning the event. And then I swam the 100 free, and I was out in front. And then I ended up like taking third because I just died. Like where my cardio was, the commitment was a whole different level. But it was a short-lived swimming swimming career. And then played some tennis. Played tennis fairly successfully. We ended up winning my senior year. We won as a team, and I was a good doubles player. Everybody was clean shaven, and I was the guy that the coach made me like have a face full of hair, made me jump rope before our warm up, and then he'd make me hit my serve as hard as I could at our opponents to like intimidate.
Scare 'em.
Yes, intimidating tennis. So
I see that
yeah.
in hockey, right? But tennis, I've never seen a lot of that. Football, you'll see that too, right? Some of the toughest, baddest ass.
He knew it was all I had. I had to psych him out. The skill set wasn't going to be there.
But tennis, yeah, I love it. I played tennis also, and I played for a school that was the worst tennis playing school in the conference, maybe the state of Illinois, and I was looked upon as pretty good in that team.
See, world's tallest midget right here.
That's right. No, I only went to that school for freshman, sophomore year, but I played a lot of tennis there and was one of the better players on the worst team in the state, maybe. But it was a lot of fun, and I got definitely a little.
It's a good game because you win or lose on your own. It's so it's good to play team sports, but it's also really nice you can't blame anybody else when you lose in a match of tennis, right?
Yeah. Well, you're absolutely, but I still did blame others when I could. What bothered me is I played at Grant High School in Fox Lake, Illinois, and we played the North Shore teams. And these little son of a guns, these little Jewish guys, and big guys like you even, right? Jewish guys, I guess,
Jewish
right?
guys.
Kicked our butts, man, just ripped me apart. I was a wrestler and football player, and I was competitive in both of those sports. But, man, I got ripped apart by these little Jewish guys in the North Shore. And afterwards, I'm like, man, I could kick this guy's butt otherwise, but he just embarrassed me in this game of tennis, right? It happened a lot. And it wasn't just the North Shore. Little North Shore guys. It was others too. They all kicked butt. But in practice at Grant High School, I was pretty good.
I believe it.
Didn't go much further than that though. But anyway, tennis. Great sport. But you're also in a lot of stuff, dude. I mean, I played ping pong against you. I snuck past you there and had bragging rights for a little while. Then we were at a racetrack one day. And you got me by like 1/100th of a second. I haven't heard the end of that still. Golf, I can't touch in golf. You're a much better golfer than me.
You're getting close, though.
I'm getting better.
Yes,
I can't wait to play this coming year because I'm going to kick your butt.
There it is.
But competitive nature is definitely in you in a big way, and that's had a lot to do with your success. There's no doubt in my mind. Anybody I know you that's done business with you, friends of mine, mutual friends of ours that speak so highly of you, your competitive nature has driven you. Tell us about where you needed that competitive nature in business to start, like when you had this. Go back to this time when you're getting you had this lawsuit against you when you first went on your own. That'd be crazy for a young guy starting in business to have this pretty big company, kind of a behemoth company, coming after you.
Yeah, that was again like that 800-pound gorilla, but there's nothing better than a chip on your shoulder. I was talking to my kid this morning when you were on the phone with me. We always like to bet on the underdog. Because why root for the favorite? There's no fun in seeing the favorite win. We got into a conversation with these guys at C.H. Robinson at one point. They sued me and one of my partners, but held lawsuit on the other partner basically, and sort of reserved the right of going back to that well. Mm-hmm. We're like, well, we can't really settle with you if you're not going to let him go. So I said. So their general counsel, I'm like, hey, here's what I'll do. I won't call these 20 accounts because I knew who their accounts were. Obviously, I was there. Yeah. And he looked at me and he said, look, you have as much chance of closing any of those accounts as I do. And I was like, okay, if that's how you want to start this, just find a way to piss me off and motivate me, inspire me to be better. So we sat down with my dad's accountants and explained them our business plans, basically showed them projections of this is what happens if we don't do well, this is what happens if we do better, and this is if we can really maximize our bank. And they looked at us and laughed, like literally looked at us like kind of snickering, and I was just like, wow, like you have no idea, like why, what are you saying is crazy? Yeah. So, and my dad just discouraged me from leaving because I was making a lot of money at 22. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we didn't. There was no way. There was no turning back. And what was there to lose? If I fell on my face, just start over. It is what it is. You'll never know what
Starting
you can
with
or
nothing
can't do.
makes it easy to
Gamble.
Potentially gamble to go back to nothing. Right?
Exactly.
You've been there before.
Yeah.
You breathed, you ate, you were healthy, and had probably a great family, right?
Yep. Exactly. I mean, better than anybody. A lot of leverage. You got to just put the leverage out there and take a shot. I think that a lot of people don't appreciate the entrepreneur who does not make money until they really sell out, until they finalize like, hey, you know what, we're going to try and do something else. And I think that, now at 41, the last 16 years, I've sort of identified as the CEO of AFN. And now I'm sort of like a man on a new plan, sort of trying to figure out who my team's going to be. A team of 2 right now, trying to work through how we're going to attack what's next.
So let's go back to the business at AFN. What were your competitive advantages starting out on your own like that, so small against the behemoths, right? What were your competitive advantages that made you different in order to get in the doors you did? When they laughed at you, they definitely laughed at you because they're saying, "There's no way this guy's got what it takes to compete with us," right? And what did you know that you had that they didn't have?
I think that I like working with people, and if I get the opportunity to speak to somebody and relate to that person, I think that there's a confidence that's built that I'm not going to let you down. Mm-hmm. And I always sort of would say, hey, if you give me a chance, I promise if I'm this persistent to get your business, what do you think I'm going to let it go once I have the opportunity? There's no chance, so I'm going to be here. You're going to call me at 3:00 on a Friday, and you're going to need something to get covered when your other carrier lets you down. And I'm going to say yes, and it's going to be expensive, but I'm going to get it done for you. And then hopefully on Monday you'll remember, and then the prices will start to come down. So let's play the game and see how it goes.
So it was really just you knew that you could serve better than you've seen in the service in the past.
Customer service. Everybody's trying to automate everything. Press 1, press 2, press 3. Give me a break. Let me talk to the same guy over and over again. Uh-huh. I'm sitting here. I can't even get an American Express card right now until I have a new employee ID number. I'm like, I've been a good customer for 16 years. Uh-huh. You can't get me a credit card? That stuff's crazy to me.
That's what was going on.
It's still going on. It's bananas.
Really? All right. So when you think about again that the customer service you're able to give, was it just communicating and understanding your customers better than the competition? Was it relationships you built? What were you had a lot of
honesty?
Yeah.
Honestly, everybody. Driver got a flat tire. Driver broke down. This happened. That happened. It's like, look, man, he slept through his appointment. He'll be there in 4 hours. He's 120 miles away. I apologize. Mm-hmm. If it's like being at home. If I'm at home with my wife and I tell her she's wrong, where do I go with that? Am I going to win that discussion? So it's convalesce. I'm so sorry. How can you get mad at someone who's apologetic?
Yeah, unless it happens often, right?
But our business has such a high level of service, and we killed them with kindness. We killed them with respect. We killed them with honesty, and so you can grow a business with that. The hard part today is there's a lot of businesses that are out there that don't make money, and somehow or another raise capital to support them, and it's about as anti-capitalistic as you can see. Mm-hmm. I'm proud to say we ran 16 years of business. We never lost money. Wow. Never lost money. Awesome. Every single year through a recession, now we had to let people go. We had to stop hiring. We had to slow down our technology, but we were responsible, and we always made money.
Well, and the cool thing there is I know your industry, and there's, like you mentioned a minute ago, lots of money pouring into the industry, and companies are just growing to grow, not making money. So you're challenged to make money in an environment when your competition is giving stuff away. It's a big deal. Well,
and getting given money at $100 billion market caps and losing $1 billion a quarter, and everybody's excited about that. And wow. I'm watching truck drivers or taxi driver owner operators that are immigrants who literally their business have gone to zero, not because they're disruptive. Uber's not disruptive. Mm-hmm. They're just charging you a third or half. Right. So as a consumer, yes, that's great. But all those drivers, inevitably, what's their business going to look like when you keep saying yes to companies like that?
Well, I got to tell you, Tesla's an example right now. I mean, Tesla's got a ton of funding all over the place, right? And I love my Tesla. But guess what? The service was amazing, the most amazing service I've ever seen in my life for the first couple of years. and it's gotten to be not so good lately. And I believe that it's still it's a great product, but they need to get their service straight. And they gotten to a point where they had all this money pouring in. They were able to do all these things that the competition couldn't do because they were losing money. And now they're trying to make money. Now, in trying to make money, they got to go backwards and say, okay, well, what do we get? How much are we giving away that doesn't make sense, right? Because I think they were giving a lot of stuff away that didn't make sense. And I need tires changed in my car. They would send a flatbed to my office and come and get it. They didn't have to do that. Hey man, I'll just drop by. No, we'll come and get it. They would drop another new Tesla for me. That doesn't happen anymore. And so that was like being in business. I was like, there's no way they can afford to do that. And now they can't afford to do that. And people are looking at them as, okay, they're not maybe as good as some of the other high end car makers when it comes to service. So I believe that happens too, right?
It's got to be hard to sacrifice. As soon as you start to sacrifice customer service, I think that your business plan and model is in trouble. If you start with customer service, you can't back that customer service down and expect that your client base is still going to be happy with you.
And sometimes when it's ridiculous customer service, you set a precedent. And I think that's happened at this point with Tesla. I think they'll probably figure it out. But in our business, same thing. We want to set a crazy precedents and ridiculous customer service. But we need to stay in business because we're not raising millions and billions of dollars of capital to keep us afloat. So we need to make money too, right? So it's always that challenge of how do you give the greatest customer service and build the best relationships and still make a profit and have customers that expect you to make a profit, right?
They hope you make a profit.
Sure.
They should.
Yeah, they do.
Because you want them to come back and replace your driveway after
right.
the potholes form after being in a nice harsh Chicago winter.
Exactly. Yeah, we want them to think about us next time.
Yeah, Ryan, one of the things I remember coming to your office when you were at AFN, and the culture and literally just the environment and the enthusiasm. And it's not just from you, literally from the person who is that individual talking to that truck driver, talking to them people about what's going on. And you can see that it was duplicated all the way through when it comes to quality customer service. And I know a lot of people, especially those who are starting a business, the product is them, but as they start growing a team, they're trying to duplicate themselves into other people. How did you do that? How did you create the mindset to these associates, these teammates of yours to, this is how I think about customer service and you should do that? What were some things you implemented while you were there?
Because you went from how many employees from to start yourself and a couple partners to
how many?
To what?
A little over 260, I think.
260 people.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
We went through a lot of teams, a lot of people. In the beginning of it, it was a lot of my friends, that I trusted and supported. I would support them and they would support me back. And another guy who started with us in the business. So there's 3 partners. And then our 4th guy left from C.H. Robinson and we said, we can't afford to pay you. He literally worked for like the first 3 months for nothing. So, I think that people start to recognize, what you're about, and hopefully you lead by positive example. And, when we started, we were we'd get up at 4:30 and drive from the city to Deerfield, and we'd be booking loads at 5:15 in the morning, and then we could be invoicing till 11 o'clock at night some nights. So it was not that alongside of the idea of Windexing the windows or taking the garbage out or vacuuming the floor or the guys that have to change the roll in the bathroom. I mean, it's literally, it was that intimate, and you can't give that sort of when you're 25 and you're literally shoulder to shoulder with these guys and it's all or nothing. You build a culture, and then people sort of fall within that culture. And if you're great from an HR perspective and understand reading talent, then that's great. But I would say that, I think there were over 1,000 people who came and went from our company over those 16 years too. So that's, 1,000 plus failures in some way, shape, or form where the connection didn't last the way that it needed to or should, or it was misread. And, I take every one of those failures personally. And I think that there's something to be said about having a big heart in business. You get exposed, but at the same time, like it has positives and negatives. Like walking away from that business is hard. But a lot of people walked away from that business. So I felt like that, like with 4 sons, that I didn't have the ability to do both well. So I knew I'd either have to really dig back in to go from what was about a $260 million business to a $500 or $750 million business, flying in the face of people that were raising cash and investing with no bottom line, but just a strong top line. How do you compete with a guy who's got a strong top line who's investing billions of dollars in infrastructure? Eventually they'll trip and get it right. I would think eventually they'll trip and get it right. I'm not sure if they will get it right, but eventually, you got to
get it. And often they burn out and they're out of business, and they these investors lose a ton of dough. In the meantime, they've hurt a marketplace, right? I mean, I've seen that as well.
A lot of shell games. There's a lot of shell games in financial engineering, and we as investors better be responsible and wise to who we're giving our money to, because there's not really a lot of great operators out there when push comes to shove.
Right.
So the best way that you implemented was going just through a lot of failures, a lot of people realizing, all right, well, we need to do better at this time and this way and all that other.
Okay. Yeah, well, you start to, again, you change your, we went from our first year we did about $9 million of revenue. Our second year we did $27 million of revenue. Our third year we did $48 million of revenue.
Wow.
And we're sort of popping. And the person who got us to 9 isn't the same person who's going to get us to 50, isn't the same person who's going to get us to 100. And you're learning that. And you can only afford to pay so much, which means you can only afford so much talent. And, we were prepared to talk about equity and things like that, but who was really going to drive the business to the next place? So you just continue to invest, continue to try to find the right people. But meanwhile, you promote your friend, like you promote somebody over your friend or the guy who's been side by side with you, and you explain to them, hey, you're going to learn a tremendous amount from this person, and hopefully that person learns a tremendous amount from you. And there's not a lot of people who actually can accept a quote-unquote demotion.
Sure.
When someone else is being promoted into a place where they can help you and bring you along.
Sure.
And it takes a certain type of vulnerability, a certain type of leader that can step aside and say, hey, I don't think I have what it takes to take you here.
So what I've seen, and I think you've seen it too, is initially, your core values aren't solidified the first year, 2, 3, 4 years, right? We expect that as we grow, all these friends and people we love on our team are going to be there in the same leadership positions or similar leadership position as you grow from five team members to 100 or 200, right? And that's not usually going to be the case. And we don't realize that early on, so we're selling the vision with that same team leading forward, and it's not always going to be the case. So how did you build a culture? When I was around your business, I mean, I couldn't believe the culture I saw. You had a lot of millennials in there. I mean, you got basketball court, a workout area. I mean, a really cool environment that you created. I'm sure it wasn't like that initially, but bottom line is...
It actually was like that initially. So we started with a $400,000 credit line, and we had one customer who was prepared to pay us in 7 days, which gave us a huge leg in terms of having the ability to churn our cash and move it faster. But still, at the beginning, we were very cognizant of how much money we had. So we were working out at the multiplex, which was right, like basically 100 feet away.
Oh, really?
And we bought everybody gym memberships. So throughout the entire course of this business, gym memberships into having a gym in the office has sort of been like, hey,
part of your culture.
Yeah, you're not strapped to the seats. You can do whatever you want when you want to do it. You're running your own day. We really tried to build a culture around you, Inc. What do you want your business to look like? We're gonna stand behind it and help you incorporate what that philosophy is going to be. Go and attack it. We're not telling you that we're right and that you're wrong, or that you're right and we're wrong. Go and try, and we'll support it until we don't think that you've had the result that we'd hope that you would demonstrate.
So you allowed your team members to be mini entrepreneurs.
They're absolutely entrepreneurs.
All right.
And when I was working at American Backhaulers, our commissions were 13% of the spread, and we started at around 14% of the spread we were paying our guys. We continued to try to fill the dynamic of, if you can make as much money as you want, work as hard as you want. It was I
like that term, you Inc.
Yeah, that was good.
That's awesome.
Our third year of business, we had a guy make almost $1 million as a sales rep.
Whoa.
Yeah, so I mean, you could imagine watching that success, and we're sitting there and like, that's great. Like, how do we keep mimicking that? And it's crazy.
You want to foster that success and that story and the vision for others to be able to do the same thing, right?
Yep, exactly.
And, so when you think about your culture from the beginning, then your culture where it is today, and we're in that business, how did it change? I mean, you're definitely a relationship building person, and I've known you as that. So you got to make tough decisions sometimes.
There's been several. I mean, there was one key point that I think really diagnosed it all for me and helped me sort of have clarity as to how you can lose a team. In 2014, so I sold my company, or a percentage of my company, to my partner at the time. In 2013, we sort of couldn't agree upon how we were going to move forward. Or 2012, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. And so I sort of stepped aside to become more of a salesman, and for him to run the business. Fast forward to end of 13, January 14, come and buy that business back, and initiate another LTIP program for my executive team. And
explain that.
A long-term incentive plan.
Okay.
So we put a bunch of all of our executives into this long-term incentive plan at a baseline rate of what our EBITDA was and a multiple of that EBITDA. And it had taken its course, and the 5th year of that was going to vest out in 2015. So 2010, basically, we put an LTIP together. 2012, I sell to my partner. 2013, he runs the business. 2014, I end up acquiring back a majority share of the business. We end up having a fantastic 2014. So these guys are 80% vested into this LTIP. 2015 budgets come out. They're looking for growth off of 2014, just like any team would expect. Sure. Market softens in October of 14, starts to taper off. Business is average to lousy January, February, March. And my executive team starts sort of, you can see them thinking about why they're upset because they're 80% vested in last year's number versus where it could be in 100% vested off of a week 15. So literally, and I could easily have solved the problem and put another LTIP in front of them to be like, hey, calm, you're still riding alongside of me. But every single one of them as an entrepreneur missed the mark in that situation, literally to a man. They all quit.
Wow.
Literally all quit because of what the money was going to be left on the table at 80% vested from the year prior. So a very valuable lesson in the sense of, am I going to just aid them and make them feel like it's okay? I'm like, hey, you know that when it was worth this last year, I feel the same way. Mm-hmm. Like what you have is this percentage of a bigger mass of an issue. So, but they weren't even considering the risk that I was taking. Right. They were all self-oriented and wouldn't even consider the fact that maybe I would come around the other side as a teammate and say, you stuck it out. Congratulations. Yeah. Thank you for being there for me. To a man. Literally. So built a completely new executive team off of that.
2015.
Yeah. And it was just a revelatory situation. So for me, I saw it one way, but it hurt. You have no idea how much it just literally you sat there and every single person sort of didn't see it in you that the leadership would come out on the other side. They were more preoccupied with
themselves.
Hey, I'm going to leave. I mean, I don't want to trivialize. It was several $100,000. So I'm not, to some degree, maybe as a responsible adult, that's the right play. But I'm kind of a ride or die. I'd take a bullet for a lot more of those guys than clearly would have taken a bullet from me. So
yeah,
those are tough times. It's like as a CEO, as an entrepreneur, you become very vulnerable in a situation like that, and you have to sit there and second guess. Hey, maybe I should have made it easier for them.
Sure.
Maybe I should have nursed them through it. But at the same time, how are they going to ever learn to stand on their own 2 feet?
They'll know that you're there for them next time to nurse them through too. And that's not a good thing.
Right. There's a big difference again. We were talking about the idea of being charitable versus being just sort of
a safety net. Right?
Yeah. You can't. If you keep giving, it's an entitlement. So charity versus an entitlement, I think, is a huge philosophical issue today that nobody really has a full grasp of. So how do we grab a hold of that issue and solve for it? How do people just look at the man in the mirror? I beat the heck out of myself as an entrepreneur. I I play it in my head. I'm game filming everything that I'm doing all the time. I'm game filming this conversation. How do I want to come across and let you know, like, how do I get you to be the man you want to be? How do I get Quentin to be the man he wants to be? Like, I get so enthusiastic about seeing someone else's success. I pride myself in maybe asking the right question or pulling the right framework together. So to have, again, like, I completely missed the mark on that team. It's like I feel like it's my sons again. Like, if I screw up with my sons, how will I handle that?
You get one shot at that, man.
Yeah, and inevitably I'm going to screw it up.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah,
They're going to resent something that I've done.
Sure.
In some way, shape, or form, and they'll hold it against me, and they're going to make me feel terrible. And I'll try to and I'll work through. It's sort of like the circle of life.
But yeah, but how do you when you get great kids that are growing up in a great environment, you're a great father, you get a great wife and mother for those kids, but still there's a happy medium of creating grit and creating comfort, right? And you want your kids to be comfortable, but man, you better teach them some grit, because when they're in the situations you've been through in your life, right? How are they going to respond if you've been the safety net there for them all along, right? And we talk about this in our families, in our businesses, in our society, right? What creates sustainability and independence in a person, right? In a business, and what creates dependency and damage, right, in a person, right? And how do we have that? How do we find that middle ground that makes sense? Where, man, yeah, you are there to support people that need that support, but boy, you do a little too much of that, and there's damage that comes along with that. So you're always weighing it, right?
I say about my relationship with my wife, and it obviously pertains to probably a little bit of everybody, but it's just a big game of tug of war, and you can't lose and you can't win. It's got to be one of those where you're just like, hey, how far can I push you?
Yeah.
How far can I drive you to be better, to the point that I don't make you think that I'm overbearing or an asshole? Sorry about my language, but
Okay,
there it goes.
So tell me this now, with your team, did that harden you at all with your team after
Yes.
that? I mean, did you get to be a little tougher on your team, or did you get to be easier on the team?
I'm tough on everybody. I mean, if you ask Jacob, I will not. I say what I feel. I'm not going to hold any cards. I will probably try to lessen the blow, because I see the positives, right? There's so much progress that people are making, but then it's like, but if you could just figure out how to do this just a little bit better, like, could you imagine what kind of a leader you would be? Do you realize what kind of a person and what type of wake you might have if you could just get here?
Right.
Again, Quentin talking about he wants to, have an impact on 1 billion people. And I sit there and I'm like, 1 billion people. How do you get to 1 billion people? And again, it's like, you think about a pyramid, and you start to think about how do you influence, how do you impact somebody positively, where they sit there and they're like, wow,
that guy made a difference.
That just completely made me think about it in a different way. And there's just not enough people that are willing to have that conversation. And as soon as they do, I think that there's such relief. It's cathartic to sort of have like a business coach who you can sort of philosophize, hey, is this going to work? Sure. Or where's the weakness in that game plan? Well,
I think that if I'm a spiritual person. I love my faith and my Catholic faith. I know you're a strong faith guy in your Jewish faith, but I believe that if we think about whoever it is that's looking over us, whoever we believe is watching every move we make, right, and we say, how do we make them happy in the long run, right? All I can do is use my strength as this ditch digger, hillbilly, whatever you want to call me, in my experiences to hopefully improve other people's lives. And I'm going to try to do that the rest of my life. I mean, maybe I'm not as successful as many could be, but I'm going to try my best. You're the same way. When with True Mentors, you were one of the first people that came on board and said, "Hey, Gary, Quentin, Gary, I'll help you with that," right? And when I've talked to the people you've mentored, they rave about you. They rave about what the difference you've made in their life by sharing your experiences with them, right? And again, if we just do that on a consistent basis, and again, we probably offend once in a while by being blunt and honest, but I'd rather do that than hold back and not express myself and share my experiences, right?
If you can't take it, can't take it, then tough. But at some point in time, you're going to see an 08, 09 in your life, or a 15, 16 in your life. I think about, if I didn't see a recession, I mean, how I could be broke 9 different ways going forward, right? So if you don't suffer from that adversity, if you don't, and that's why I think YPO can be so helpful. Someone's like, hey, watch out for that. Mm-hmm. It's our job. It's our responsibility to, hey, watch out for that.
Right.
So, like, yeah, we're firm. We're tough. Maybe you can't take it today, but maybe in a year you'll come back out and be like, you know what, I really needed that.
Yeah.
And you just got to have to wake up and.
And Quentin, I don't know about you, but that's what I've seen in Ryan, and since I've known you the last 9-10 years, is not afraid to say exactly what's on his mind, and sometimes like, man, that kind of hurt, but then along like, but he was right.
Yeah, I got a couple stories.
I appreciate
from that perspective
right?
with Ryan himself. I'm not gonna lie to you. The one thing, and I think both of you all have, is there's a difference between having, and I think you all as great leaders, it shows there's a difference between having empathy and sympathy, and you all definitely show the empathetic component of, hey, look, I know I can understand where you're coming from. I understand. I mean, honestly, you know how to put yourself in other people's shoes, and then just as a leader, all right, but listen, let's solve the problem, not just focus on the issue. And in addition to that, you're talking about being y'all call it a hard ass or whatever, but I call it conflict with caring. I think this is a good way of showcasing how true leaders should be, and you all are a testament to both of that, especially you when you come to me and I say, I have this men's mentorship program I want to implement, and you're like, all right, well, that's a great idea, but if you thought about this and you had asked you 15 different type of questions, and now your mind is just formulating like you're trying to come up with an answer, and at the same time you realize, holy crap, I didn't think about this fully through.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good leader, by the way. He's not necessarily telling you you're wrong. He's just telling you to think about this.
Ryan's going to ask you, how is this sustainable, right?
That's actually what he asked me,
I know.
Quentin James. How do we duplicate this in other high schools? I was like, well, actually, you got a point. Let's focus on the first one first. Let's focus on the first one. So, but you're good at that, man.
I think it's that type of. I appreciate that. I think we don't have to recreate the wheel.
Right.
I think that there are people. There's a guy named Ted Alling who's a guy. He came out of our transportation market, ended up selling to Coyote Logistics. He's in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and he started a Chattanooga preparatory school. He's got 66 sixth graders that all have a mentor, an adult mentor that's with them basically through and through. And he is literally, again, he's running it tight like a drum, and he's there and he loves it, and then he's just giving back, and you sit there and like, how can I replicate that? How can I bring up today's entrepreneurs? He's attacking accelerators. He's doing all kinds of the right things. He's spending time with Gary Vee, guys that are influencers that are trying to impact the millennials and those people that are coming up that are just sort of, I think, confused, just confused about there's so much anxiety with social media. Like, all these different things are putting pressures on people to like go. And like, who's really sitting back and answering those 15 questions? Are you really taking the time? Are you really willing to put yourself out and fail and then come back and take another beating? Because yes, okay, you're making progress. We're chipping away. It's like, it's too hard. It's not, it'll never be perfect. So just get 80%.
Be ready for it. Be ready.
Yeah, get
Be
80%
ready for the
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Push. How am I wrong? Tell me how I'm wrong and be comfortable, be honest. That's what I'm looking for out of you. I led that company until, AFN until the end of, September. And you sit there and all I've been asking for, we'd have town halls. And we'd sit there and we'd spend an hour talking to our organization 2 times. We have 2 town halls a day. And we'd have a Q&A. And my dad he's like, Ryan, you need to keep having these conversations. You need to keep informing your organization as to what you see in the future. And I'm like, well, that's great, but they're not, there's no Q&A. No one's asking questions. No one's prepared to stand up and ask a question. It was like, I as a team, you need to all be willing to accept. I said to them, like, literally, hey, what do you go home to your spouse and say, man, if Ryan and his organization would just do it this way, it would save this much. Tell me how I'm an idiot. Say something to give me something to think about and focus on and improve. That's what you're here for. I'm trying to build a team of great people and support you. I'm not going to go out and cold call and sell anymore. I've done that. How can we move on? How can we graduate? How can you give me great business intelligence, forward-thinking analytics? How can we be different from our competition? And that just became more and more challenging, I guess, as
you get bigger or what?
Well, as we got bigger and as the team changes in dynamics. We hired different people in different spots, and they had different appeals, and those people still had different faults and different issues. So we were exposed. It was, again, it's sort of like watching bureaucracy. It's like, oh, well, we're going to make sure that mistake doesn't happen again. So then you hire to resolve for that mistake. And then you're like, oh, man, but he doesn't cover this aspect of the finance whatsoever. And you're like, oh, my God, like, am I sure I can trust this guy to make sure that we're not, over leveraged or getting overly aggressive with our banks and pushing ourselves into breaking a covenant, which is a whole different level of stress.
Right.
I had, it was in, I want to say in 2015 or 2016, got a note from the bank, sent me a check, or basically a balance sheet that said that I owed $13 million, and sent it to my house. And my wife opened it. She's like, "Is there anything we need to be concerned about here?" And I sat there and I said, "Gee, I don't think so." But I was like, "Holy shit! Like they're sending me they just sent me a bill. Like, do you want to think about that before you send me an 8-figure? You owe me $13 million."
Wow.
Yeah. So there was some fun moments in sports.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want to know what happened next, actually.
How long did it take you to get that figured out or resolved?
Didn't take long. I called him and said, "What are you doing? Why are you sending this to my house? What is your objective?" It was bankers, man. Some of these guys are very bright. Some of them, I somehow fell into where we bought a company, leveraged up in order to swallow the company. And then our 2 months got out ourselves sideways. We literally moved from MB and got ourselves sideways, broke a covenant. And then they just and next thing you know, we're in workout. And we're like,
wow.
You got to be kidding me. There's like, well, maybe you should pay your carriers slower. It's like, well, let's analyze how this all works, because our carriers are our partners. So we want to make sure we pay them very well and very fast, because they all have liquidity issues.
Absolutely.
I'm like, so you can see how are you making our company better with this suggestion? And I literally almost I'm being calm now. I literally almost choked this guy out across the table. I don't lose my cool very much anymore. But when he said that, I was sitting there. I'm like, so now I get it. Like, this is how a bank can ruin an organization.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've seen it. Definitely seen it happen. Yeah. So and actually, we were in a workout situation about 4 years ago, and it was they were pretty good about it. Our bank was pretty good about it at the time, and never had been there before, but we figured it out and we got through it. But you had to be totally transparent with them. We were, and they were happy that we were. But it wasn't easy.
Well, I'm sure. Well, the question is, were you transparent with your organization?
Absolutely. Yeah.
See, it's because in certain places, you drive a transparency, and in certain places, driving that transparency might give. Well, they might be like, "Wow, I don't know if it's stable here."
Sure.
You're not missing a payroll. You can't do that to them. You can't put them in those positions.
So we never missed payroll or anything like that. But we were transparent with everybody that wanted to know. Basically, anybody that's in tune with our financials on a weekly, monthly basis knew, and we were transparent with them, right? We're not transparent with all 350 or 400 people, but with our closest people that manage our business.
Well, I think this might be a good question for both of you all. So when is there a good time? I don't want to utilize the word. When is there a good time to be transparent, and when is there a good time to not say too much too soon, or at all for that matter? Where is that defined line? Because some people don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that you don't know, right? I mean, you don't know you're going to think that you have yourself covered, and everybody's going to see, this conversation is going to land on different people a lot of different ways. So you don't really know the philosophy, because you're speaking to an audience, and how are you going to manage that audience, or are you going to deal with it individually?
You have to think of who the audience is and how they might react. And I fought the unions for the 3.5, 4 years I fought the unions. I wasn't very transparent with my team because if they knew what was going on, they probably wouldn't be with me much longer. And I was, basically going never went bankrupt, but losing everything I had over a few year period because I was spending way more money than I was making. And I was telling my team members as well as the unions that I was kicking their butt, and we're making more money than we've ever made before, right? And that worked because I kept my team calm, and they come to work every day wanting to fight the unions along with me. But the unions, on the other hand, were fighting a lot harder. As I kept bragging to them, we're making more money. Either way, we got through it. Now in today's day and age, for our business, we're very transparent with our managers, our partners, our VPs. The leaders of our business. We're very transparent with these small to mid-sized businesses that we have today. And so we stay transparent. Now, when in the tough times we had this issue 4 years ago, we lost some key people in our business, some purposeful, some because they were afraid, and I think it worked out great because the strongest ones, the ones that have the most confidence and faith in myself as a leader in our businesses, are still with us today, kicking butt, right? So it worked out really well. But we weren't transparent with everybody in every part of our organization because they really, our labor force, some of them, don't need to know or don't really care to know, right? But guess what? We have some people with us a long time in the labor force that ask questions, and we were transparent with them because they cared. They know who we were. They've been with us a long time. They've seen us through other tough times. But it's a balancing act. You really got to think, okay, who's the audience, and how are they going to react, and how transparent do we get? But it's something you got to weigh depending on what business you're in.
It's you're walking a fine line the whole way until everything from a tax perspective says you should be selling your business. Everything all the time says you should be selling your business. If again, you're taxed at 37% every single year versus when you sell your business, it's you're going to sell it in 23% taxes. So everything, private equity, all these businesses are philosophically that way because that's how the tax code is written.
That's a great point, right? I mean, in today's day and age, the multiples are so high in all of our businesses that if you really looked at it, for us to grow our business being taxed at 37-40%, depending on where we're at in the country and in our tax brackets, right? You're taxed 37 to 45%, and it's better now than it was a few years ago, right?
That's right.
But again, when you look at the ability to grow when you're taxed at that rate, it's substantial compared to selling the business where you're taxed at capital gains tax, right? And the buyers that very often are investors being taxed a similar way,
That's
right?
Correct.
Passive tax too. So they have more money out there. So again, you have to question every time. But the other point I would make, Ryan, is in building our businesses, we need to look at every single day as, are we creating value that could be sold? Because if we're not going the right direction, and nobody on our team is going the right direction. Right?
100%.
I mean, if we're not building our businesses with the eye of being, even if you never want to sell, right? And I'm not a guy that's really sold much of anything, but if I don't build these businesses, our team doesn't build these businesses every day to be the most valuable they can be to the outside, then we're crazy.
Well, again, I mean, if the business is growing and showing an upward trend, and you happen to have the ability to sell it a multiple of 10 or 12 times, okay, so that's going to take you 10 years to potentially achieve that type of success. Now, if you have that type of cash on the sideline, how much more aggressive can you get having that cash in your holsters than if you're still playing with all this risk on the table? When I sold the business the day we closed, my buddy's like, so how does it feel? And I said, well, I literally I've had more liabilities than assets on my P&L since I was 25 years old.
Yeah.
So now, for the first time in my life, I'm actually playing with a decent sized stack. Now, how aggressive can I get to make a difference? So can I involve myself in a Chattanooga preparatory school in Chicago? Can we do something with a Greenlight Capitals? Companies that are trying to make a difference out there. Can we do something with true mentors?
Amen.
How can we
Amen,
attack?
huh?
Yeah, exactly. Right. But I mean, again, we're pivoting. This works. This doesn't work.
Yeah.
How do we grow and improve? And who's willing to really get their hands dirty and play the game?
Yeah.
This is not my style. I've never done something like this before, but I like you guys. I'm like, okay, so we're going to sit around with some microphones and I'm going to have your unadulterated time for a few hours. How often do I get to do that? So it's honestly a privilege.
It's fun.
And hopefully I don't sound like a complete jerk while I'm on this thing. But
You can't sound like a jerk. You sound like a cool dude that has a lot of fun in life.
I'm blushing.
That's what we want.
Thank you. You're a good man.
So what are some things you're doing right now that you've sold the business and sold your part of it necessarily? And I mean, and FYI, I know a lot of people at AFN and they still they love your leadership, so I'm pretty sure they're missing you already. But for the most part, what are some things now that you sink your teeth into? You're like, man, the next phase of Ryan Daube. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. What are some of those things now?
I think that the overarching things that I'm seeing right now, again, are from a fatherly perspective. I get concerned about my kid having a cell phone, which I just gave him now that he turned 13. And I think about, again, the anxiety of social media, that I go in to kiss him goodnight and his phone's sitting right there. And I know I'm on Instagram and I can see like the last time he was on Instagram, and I sit there and I'm like, is this, should I be making him write me a paper once a week about what he learned off of Instagram, because it's got to be the right things. There's a lot of motivational stuff. I like following Gary V on Instagram. That's good time in my opinion of surfing and learning, but also everybody's sitting there, taking pictures of themselves and completely caught up in their own stuff rather than understanding what's going on out there. And everybody's trying to impress or make somebody else happy, and no one's really living in the present and just sort of being in the moment of what we're dealing with and what we're doing. And the world is, at least our country, I'd never seen it quite so derisive and negative. What's wrong with this? What's wrong with that? It's never like, wow, like imagine being someplace else. Imagine being in another country and climbing a wall to escape it.
Mm-hmm. Great point.
There's so much going on today, like that I have an issue with that way, that I'm concerned with, but I feel as if, look, I don't want to be Donald Trump. I don't want to be a person that's going to be vilified if my opinion doesn't sound like it fits social norms. It's really a frustrating, stressful.
I was actually going to recruit you into the political world because I know some people there, and you're the type of guy anybody would want to lead. So what do you think? You good with that?
I think it sounds like just an absolutely terrible idea.
Exactly. Isn't that crazy though? If here's a guy, young guy like you, for to be in a position you're in, you're blessed, and your family's blessed that they got you in your attention as much as they're going to have right now in the future to raise these kids and everything else. But we can't get great people to jump into these things, right? You're a guy that'd be a perfect person that would speak your mind and with your experience at a young age could do great things in public service, right? In politics, right? But yet we can't get guys like you, right? And I was actually asked recently if I would jump into something, and I said I can't do that. I've got too many good things going on in my life. I've got my great family, great faith, great business, and these things are going to be jeopardized if I ever thought about this, right?
We're talking about running 200, 300, 400 people organizations. Imagine running our country.
Yeah.
Imagine running our state. Imagine being the mayor of your city.
But the waste you'd find is incredible. The waste you would find as a business leader would be incredible, and you could help lead those things much easier than somebody that's never been in a position you've been in. But the problem in our society today is, I believe, is you're not going to do that. You're not going to put your family in the face of that, right? And you and I can't do that. Most people can't. They might be perfectly qualified, can't do it. Whether they're far left, far right, whatever. And I think that's a shame, right? That we can't have it. Because like you're saying, I mean, we've got great things going on in our country. We don't talk about the great things enough. Because could you have done this? Could you have built this business if you're in Argentina? If you're Guadalajara, Mexico. I mean, could you have done what you did in any other country that you know?
I mean, again, you could certainly do it someplace else. There's probably a tremendous amount of markets that are underdeveloped where you could go over and achieve great things for them and make great, promising strides for them. But overall, there's no economy like ours where you can literally make a difference. Where you can literally attack something and it's just not that bureaucratic. It is developed enough that you can go out and make a difference. Mm-hmm. I'm not, everybody complains about it. I'm starting with, I'm the Lincolnshire Sports Association president.
All right.
That we'll start with just my community and see if we can build an athletic program
Awesome.
To get the community to come and use our parks.
Uh-huh.
Just start with small stuff and see
That'd
if
be
is that palatable. Getting involved in an overnight camp, where 200 boys are spending a summer up there from ages 8 to 23, depending on if you're a camper or a counselor, and can we make an impact?
And these are experiences made an impact on you, so hey, if I get involved in these things, the results because you've been an example of that, right?
Yes. I mean, again, like the adversities of being not helicoptered by your parents for 2 months, you certainly learn a lot about yourself. And certainly sets you up to have a little bit better understanding of what college is about and your sense of independence.
So tell me about this, right? Tell me you're a great mentor, and you've had to learn that somewhere. Who have you mentored? Who's been mentors to you in your life that have made a big difference? That created the mindset that you have that think it's cool to be a mentor and give back your time and experiences.
So I think that there's a lot of everybody is my mentor in some way, shape, or form. I try to take away something from somebody every time that I have an opportunity to listen, you know, to understand, to not be closed-minded. You know, try to do something different that takes you out of your comfort zone, right? But you know, my dad obviously was a huge mentor to me growing up. He was a sensational athlete, a great man. Trustworthy, honest, integrity was all the way through. But you know, from again, the relationship he had with my mom, and as a parent, it was more of, you know, children are a disruption in the course of life. So it was their love for each other, and we're a byproduct of that love. And if I sat there and would have a discussion with my dad, and my mom would have yelled at me over whatever it was that I was doing, I'm like, does this make sense to you? And I'd put him in a tough spot, you know, he would 95% of the time agree with my mom, because he was going to bed with her, and he wasn't going to, you know, if he was home 2 days a week, he wasn't going to ruin that. Right. So I think that my sales acumen probably comes a lot from, I thought I was being rational and reasonable, but I lost a lot of debates, even when I thought I won. So,
but your dad was an awesome
my
mentor,
dad was great.
Like.
He
works
with me.
Helps you
Yes,
stuff today,
absolutely.
Right?
He's
think through things and all that.
He's clearly a chief cook and bottle washer. He's a man. He's a good sixth man. He can pass. He can shoot. You know, he can steal. He's a good. You know, he's just a good all around ball player. He'll still beat me in tennis today. I would not play him on the tennis court. He's an animal.
And he's like that in business too, pretty much. I mean, he's just all around.
He's just got a nature and a way about him. Everybody wants to be around him. He's the wise elder. You know, genuinely, just not selfish.
Why you been keeping this guy away from me, man? I want to meet this dude.
Have Roger
You
met
gotta
him?
just
What's
fly
with
out to
that?
Palm Springs and spend some time with him.
I'll be there.
I'll
be there.
Pick up the phone. He's got nothing but he's got a lot of time on his hands now. He's not with AFN anymore, so I'm sure he'd love to talk to you. Yes, he's
What role did your dad play in the business?
He started. I mean, he again. You know, he was like retired, and I said, hey, I could really use, you know, your head, your mind, and you know, started in sort of like helping with accounting and cutting checks, and then he did some human resources work. He did a lot of different things, but more than anything, you know, I sort of dangle myself over the edge, and he's sort of holding me over and making sure I don't, you know, fall off. You know, he was just a strong devil's advocate, and there's, you know, every day there's, you know, should we go this way or should we go that way? And there's a lot of times where he said go this way and I went that way, and there were a lot of times when he said go this way and I heeded his advice. But
you're a guy I know that likes to roll the dice, likes to gamble. Educated gambles are a blast for you, like they are for me, right? Was your dad one that kind of?
No, he's the absolute opposite. He's a squirrel. He would not. He does still to this day does not gamble. He, you know, the guy had no mortgage on any home. You know, I was sitting there and it's like, hey, you know, if you could finance this and just put it in the stock market like you told me to, you'd probably, you know, he's like, well, I only have this much time left. I'm like, come on, like let's step up. There was one time, my mom's mother, we were going. She likes to gamble, so we're on a cruise, which I absolutely despise, and I'm like 18, 19 years old, and I'm gambling on this cruise ship, and I'm hot. I'm playing two hands, and I'm up to 50. And I'm in college. Playing two $50 hands of blackjack. My dad just sort of walks up. He's like, you know, Ryan, in my 25 years of being able to be in a casino or gamble, I've never had that much money on the table. Like, I'm sitting there in the middle of the hand. I'm like, how big of a jack off do I look like right now? He's completely like judging me. I'm pretty sure I lost the hand, and like I was like, okay, we're gonna walk away now, because
But that was perfect though for your dad.
That exemplifies.
You and your dad to work together. It's perfect, especially if you respect each other, right? He expects your willingness to want to gamble, roll the dice once in a while, and educated gambles, and you respect his conservativeness, and boy, together it probably worked out pretty well.
Certainly helps, no question about it. It certainly helps. It's a good complementary relationship.
I find it with my you and I are much alike that way, and I find I've got to surround myself with people that challenge my decisions, because very often I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Hey, wait, we just talked about it for an hour. That's okay. Let's do it. Well, wait, it's going to cost a lot of money. Shouldn't we think this over a little more, right? But I need those people making me think things through, right?
I think that that's exactly unfortunately for both of us. I think that we sort of judge across the table quickly, for better or for worse. And it's like, hey, I want to be a part of that.
Yeah. And you can always remember 1 or 2 times it worked out when you thought, irrationally, and it worked out. I remember that time, right? But there's probably 5 or 10 times more than that it didn't work out. So, well, you forgot about.
No, see, I'm absolutely the opposite. I celebrate all the losses. It's like, oh, I made the biggest mistake there. Can't believe I bought that there instead of buying it here, selling that here instead of selling it there.
But you learned, and now you want to go learn more, make another mistake.
Well, I just want to help everybody else not make those mistakes. I mean, if I can convince you not to buy Bitcoin today, then I think that this will be time well spent.
I was just going to ask you that, but I should just stay away from it.
I mean, again, I sit there and you think about an investment thesis. As long as I can explain what I'm investing into my 8-year-old son, I feel better about it.
Yeah.
But if someone wants to teach me how Bitcoin works and how I'm supposed to use it, you can call my cell phone. Don't.
That's something that a lot of my friends are messing with. I've not, and I do focus investing in my businesses more than anything else, and it overall works out. Even though I gamble in my businesses too, so we're off in the bleeding edge. Sometimes the bleeding doesn't slow down.
As soon as you say that this is a black market tool, that you can do things that people aren't following, it's probably something that's better off staying away from.
Yeah,
like politics.
Yeah, like politics. You're right. Okay, so vision. You've had to have a vision to get people to follow you all along, right? To get great people on your team that you can partner with, you had to have a vision. You and your leaders had to create that vision. What's your vision now? I mean, when you think about you got Jacob, this sharp dude with you here right now. I mean, Jacob said to know that you got a vision, right? To be on your team and to know there's opportunity for him and to help you grow this, right? Everything you do in the future. What's that vision look like?
I think it's more about. I think that I can. It's really easy to say here now that I've had this liquidity event that you should focus on emotional capital. You should focus on mental capital. It's like, well, sure, you can say that. You've got enough money that it doesn't matter anymore. Well, it does. It's the money is not the fulfilling part of it. If the money is what you care about, you're gonna be so disappointed. I mean, an Anthony Bourdain, a Kate Spade, these people literally see the world in a way that they literally are giving up hope.
Yeah.
Giving up hope. They have more money than they could spend, and there's something there that they are unfulfilled about. And try to unwind that. Try to let's talk, like, did they not have a single friend that they could call and reach out to that would understand? Like, think about how lonely those people are.
Robin Williams. I mean, think of these people, like you're saying, the greatest people on earth, right? That add so much value to so many lives, right? And yet they don't see that in themselves, right?
And then you think about, again, a legacy. It's like those people are forgotten. I see the flag is still down for George Bush, but like, is anyone talking? It's been 2 weeks. Gave his whole he was a fighter pilot. Could have literally called it a day at 22 and had a legacy beyond. He would have been the biggest stud of all time.
Yeah.
But he committed another 70 plus years to our country. And is he being discussed? Is he being celebrated? Well, the flag is down. Why is the flag down?
It's in every person he affected in a positive way, right? I mean, it's those people that'll carry on his legacy. The people that want to live life like he did, right? And those friends of his and the people that loved him, right? That he affected so positively. And that's what will continue on. So again, that's the question you have to ask yourself now, right? How can you add value to other people's lives now more than you ever could before? As the leader of a nice organization, you can do some cool things. You can create opportunity, and there's a lot. It's fun, right, to see people progress and do well. But now, as this leader of your own, yourself now, and your family foundation, and the things you can do now in the future. What's that vision look like? I mean, you probably not just happened recently, so I'm sure it's not totally clear. And you're a young dude. Mine's still not clear, right? And I'm a lot older than you.
It's never gonna. It doesn't matter our age. Again, where you are. I think mentally, sort of in your mindset and your growth. We talk about mentors. A guy, his name is Rand Stagen, and the program is called Stagen. I don't know if you've heard of it in Dallas, Texas, but I took this class, a year-long program, basically. That's teaching us about attention management and project management and also just self-awareness and what's your personal vision and mission to that point. those are things that we all need to focus on. We should be focusing on them when our kids are in kindergarten. What's your personal mission? I just want to take a deep breath and smile and just be here with you guys today, right? Because what does tomorrow bring? Well, what's the guarantee that tomorrow is? And I'm gonna retire at 65. That was what my parents said. I want to be able to retire and do what?
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? Are you're gonna play? Not that great of a golfer, even if I can kick your butt. Still, I can't find that much enjoyment out of it. So let's try to make a difference. Let's tell everybody to relax and breathe, because money. What is it? It's materiality at the end of the day. Unless you're literally going to get on the ground someplace and get serious about impacting a philosophy of our children, so that there's hope and elimination of some of the derisiveness that's out there today. How do we impact that and get away from the discussion of, hey, I want a Porsche. Hey, I want a really cool car or house or whatever. It's like, those are nice to haves. Yeah. But that's just a social status discussion. It's not about who are you? Who are surround yourself with the five closest people that you're with. You're the average of those people. Who are your 5? Right.
That's great points, buddy. It's the things that we think that we need to think about more often, for sure. So Jacob, you're on Ryan's team here now, and I talked to you a little bit before we started. Sharp young man that's been in business and been around duplication of business and all different things. And you met Ryan, interestingly. You can share that with us quickly, but tell us about yourself and what you're going to do in this world of Ryan Daube in the future.
Sure, yeah. And actually, before though, I want to kind of give the thesis of what I think Ryan's vision is, just a little bit more concisely, if we can. And obviously, this is my version of it, so it might not be totally accurate. But I think, from what I've gathered, what Ryan really wants to do is he wants to invest in and donate to charities, businesses, and people that matter to him personally, or to the world, or to their communities, or whatever it might be. And that was something that I wrote down early on when we were first discussing, me working for him. But just to kind of give concise vision for what I think Ryan has kind of told me he wants to do. And,
sure.
Ryan is the big picture kind of person. He's looking at, what he can do holistically and what, he can attack every day so that he can actually make a real difference, a positive difference in people's lives. And then my job is to sort of pick up the pieces and be that operational function, whatever I may be, like a utility kind of person. So, my background helps me and will help me do that. And, when I proposed to Ryan, we sort of figured out, ways to make it a little bit more clear, what my role would be in that. And, I've just been kind of along for the ride. And I said it to him when I first proposed. I said, I want you to take me under your wing. And he is.
Well, and the cool thing is, you're a guy that can work anywhere. You could find a job in leadership about anywhere, right?
Well,
what drove you? And I can kind of think of what the answers would be, being a young guy like you are, and being around a guy like this. But go ahead, tell me what drove you to want to be a part of this guy's team.
Yeah, so we played golf together up in Sand Valley on the way up to our alumni weekend at camp at Kawaga last summer in June. And I had the best round of my life.
Is that right?
And so that was it. I was like, if I play the best round of my life with this guy, then, I figure I might as well
76? 76?
No, 73, which was even from that.
So how do you like Ryan's course up there?
It's great. It's great. Well, that was at Mammoth. I had that round. I mean, those courses are incredible.
So Ryan and I were a little alike, and we could tell you we were on a plane ride with one of the I believe like the Michael Jordan of golf course development, Mike Kaiser, Michael Kaiser, right? And
they developed Sand Valley, right?
Yeah, he developed Sand Valley, and on the way back though from Bandon Dunes before Sand Valley, Ryan and I were on the plane ride with him, and we had 4 or 5 other entrepreneurs on the plane with us, great friends of ours, that went on a golf trip with Mike Kaiser, which is an awesome experience, right? On his golf courses at some of the best golf courses in the world, Bandon Dunes. But on the way back, we're picking his brain, and Mike Kaiser, trying to learn everything we can from him. And he was probably thinking we're a pain in the neck at this point, because him and Ryan and I are hammering with questions while our buddies are rolling their eyes, saying, "Oh my gosh, these guys are a pain in the neck." And but we got out of him that he was going to do this new course in Wisconsin, And sure enough, we're like, well, you going to look for any partners or anything? You're looking for a partnership? And he goes, actually I am. And that one we're going to have some fun. I'm going to invite people that I like, only people that I want to be partners in this thing. And we're going to do a little partnership there. So Ryan and I are like, I'm in. I don't know who said it first, but I'm in, right? Other guys shut their mouths, didn't say a word, right? But we're in like that, right? We didn't care how much. We didn't ask, what were we going to get 1/4% for $2 million or what we're getting on this thing? We didn't even ask. We said, we're in.
It's the perfect example of what, drew me to want to work for Ryan in the first place, that he's the guy who would do something like that.
Yeah.
Meet somebody like Mike Kaiser and then say, oh, you're starting something new. I want in on that.
Exactly.
Right now, no hesitation.
Exactly.
It's a huge, I think, a strength of his.
Yep.
Absolutely.
It is. It's a weakness, but it could be a strength. In that case, it's a fun place to go to, and to know that we get treated like pretty much like kings when we're up there, and this beautiful place that's going to be one of the best golf course communities in the world. Right?
Yeah, it is fun. Beautiful up there. It's like paradise.
And the best thing is mentorship again. Mike Kaiser, he's him and his son are great guys. Mike Jr. and Mike Kaiser Sr. and Mike Jr. Spectacular guys. I pick their brain often in the golf course world. Ryan, I'm sure if he wants to, they'll answer any questions, and he can pick their brain all they want. And you're talking really, in my opinion, the Michael Jordan of golf course development when you talk to him. So if we're passionate about that game as fun and business, and so it's kind of neat, right? So sorry to interject, but the Sand Valley thing, I had to tell that story quick.
No, I love it. Yeah. I guess if there's just one more thing that I would want to say about Ryan, and I think from what I've learned about you too, is that, and you brought this up early on, is that Ryan has a competitive nature, right? And I think that sometimes when we hear about or learn about business owners or entrepreneurs or even politicians, to go back to it, who are competitive by nature, we think of them as less than compassionate, not compassionate. We think of them as not empathetic, like Quentin, like what you were saying before. But the truly, I think, great leaders, and look, I don't know anything. I'm 32 years old. I don't really know anything. But from what I have learned, I really think that the truly great leaders and the people that I look up to the most, whether or not I know them in my life, are the people that have that balance, where they're competitive and they're aggressive and they want something and they go get it, but they also have a heart and they're compassionate and they believe in other people. And that's something that I've learned about Ryan, over many years, but certainly in the last couple of years, I learned that definitely more specifically. And then, just people like my dad or people like, my most important leaders, they all share that quality that they have both.
Right.
And I think it's just a really important thing. And it's why, I think I'm really lucky to be in this opportunity.
Awesome. And you know what? You're gonna see that. We wouldn't ask Ryan to be on this if we didn't see those qualities in him. And he's got those to the tens. And again, I've got friends of mine that unfortunately we won't have on here probably because they're whatever. But I mean, on the they're super competitive and they build business. They're great business leaders. But in some cases, maybe they're not through their life yet. They want to think about how they're going to give back and how they're going to be part of the community of giving in the future. And
there's more people like that than the other, I think.
And I like I said, we want people that we want to know that the entrepreneurs that we respect and want to share our lives with are those that are not only just kicking butt in business and whatever they're doing to make things great in the business world, but also kicking butt when it comes to building a legacy.
Absolutely.
Investing in causes that are sustainable beyond them, right? That's the most fun. So
I think that your ability is that you, again, like we are good at surrounding ourselves with the right people. I think that you again have just sort of an innate way of moving forward, and if you surround yourself with great operators, you're just going to be tremendously successful and effective, and that success can be measured in a lot of different ways. And I think that the outside world and how they might perceive your success versus your own sort of humble way of accepting your own success are two different things. And I think that's what good leadership is if I feel that I'm accomplished at 41, I really hope that even though my athletics, I'm not in my prime anymore, but mentally, I hope that I'm really dangerous in 15 years. I hope that when you start to think about a trajectory, what are you going to be doing? Well, I want to just be around great people, and I want to surround myself and build great teams.
Right.
So I want to be a part of this team. You know what I mean?
How fun is it to have an opportunity, right, that you have going forward? It's got to be so exciting for you to know that now, you're in a position right now. You're basically just you're the artist of this awesome canvas ahead, right? And how cool is it that you can visualize it now and build it any way you want it, and you're going to surround yourself with team members like Jacob to make sure it comes to fruition. And how fun is it going to be to look back at, right, when you're 70 years old and say, "Whoa, we did it, man!" It's even a prettier picture than
70,
I thought.
that's a win in itself.
It's even a prettier picture than I thought, right? It'll be fun.
Looking forward to it. Hopefully 70 is not tomorrow, but it is moving fast. That's for sure.
It is, yeah. I remember when I was your age. Well, it didn't seem as long. It doesn't seem 14 years ago, but we both got long runway ahead of us.
Speak for yourself.
If the good man above likes us here.
Exactly. I do believe in karma. You talked about religion earlier. There's a lot to be said about looking at yourself in the mirror and being proud of what you see. And I think that's a very big struggle, is having the ability to sort of look past what you haven't accomplished, and having the ability to sort of be like, man, like, look where we are. Look what we've accomplished. Look, now where are we going to go? And I think that everybody needs to have the ability to, my 8-year-old son is he's the best. He's always, when we have dinner together, he says, "What was the best part of your day, and what was the worst part of your day?" And
awesome.
That idea gives everybody the ability to sort of think about,
reflect.
Hey, did you make someone's day today? Did you make somebody happy? Think about, I'm in a very competitive school district right now, and it's Stevenson, Stevenson school, and they're whatever in the country, and they test really, really well. So we just got done with like our reviews of our kids, and the first thing they do is they bring out the standardized testing. And they're like, well, here's what, here's where the state is, here's where the school is, here's where your kid is. And I'm like, hey, like, is my kid a good kid? Like, does he make the day better for everybody, or is he like someone who's they call them bucket fillers? Which is he? Is he being polite? Is he respectful? Does he say please and thank you? And it's like the test.
Does he challenge positively? Does he challenge in a good way? Yeah,
can you communicate? Can you collaborate?
EI, where's the do they measure EI in kids? I don't think so. But I mean, boy, gosh.
There's like Gallup, the idea of Gallup and StrengthsFinder. They do actually have a children's StrengthsFinder, but shouldn't that should be something like immediately? Hey, these are the great parts of you. This is you are sensational in this way, and these are things that you're not great at. And hey, let's not worry so much about what you're not great at, and really focus on where you are great.
Yeah.
Imagine the philosophy of a child who's not being told, hey, you got a C in that class. Oh my, that's like life ending. If you can't get better than a C in geometry, like that's going to have a huge impact on the rest of your life. Are you kidding me? A C in geometry? Maybe you care because you're dealing with geometry every day, but like guys like us, geometry, biology, pass. I'm not going to be a heart surgeon. Not a chance.
Yeah. Well, and you can't manage what we don't measure, right? And I see that in our schools sometimes we measure many things that might not matter in the grand scheme of things of life, and there's a lot of things we don't measure at all that mean a lot, and it's those soft skills, right? Communication and are these kids treating their friends, with respect, or the people that aren't their friends with respect? Are they challenging in a good way, in a positive way? Are they a little shits? Are they, I mean, I think if there's a way to measure those things, I think it'd be good. And maybe there is. I've not been around, our school systems as much lately, but boy,
that's like again the SPEAR program that Quentin's talking
that's
about.
A great one,
It's again, can we? We were talking about like, hey, how do you give somebody the opportunity to be in this program? Is it, hey, the person who's got the best grades? No, let's ask them a few questions. Let's see who they are outside of school, and if they have the ability to think and be creative. And maybe it is the guys that are getting the D's and the F's in class, it's because they're sitting there and they're not going to socialize with what the masses are saying. It's not that they're literally D and F kids. They're probably fantastic in something, and whatever that adversity is that they're facing, they're probably going to be 10 times more successful than the kid who was the class president, getting straight A's, reading his books, and following what everybody says is right. It's like, then now what? Who's telling me what to do next? Oh, go be a doctor.
Sure. Well, we have at Bull Valley, we have the Evans Scholar Program, right? That we put in place a few years ago after we've became part of that club, and we've had an Evans Scholar now, and it's been awesome to see it happen, right? And I was all about setting up a new program, and we've done it now, and it was basically kind of like, it's not named after me, but it's kind of my type of scholarship. It's the kid that works the hardest and gets the best grades they can get for their work ethic, and they might be a C student. Might be a D student, might be a B student. We're not, it doesn't matter what grade they get. We want to know that in their school and on the golf course, they're outworking people around them, and we don't care what that grade is. And again, it's kind of because you know my story. I graduated in the top 75% of my high school, and I got C's and D's, and I worked kind of hard, I guess. I worked hard in sports anyway, for sure. And I kind of worked with that leftover half hour a week I had on getting the best grades I could get, right? Yep. But bottom line is, I do see a lot of kids that I'm around, that are caddying, and kids that I see in some of my own kids. My youngest son, my oldest son, who they worked really hard to get mediocre grades, and they had issues, whatever those issues were, ADHD, ADD, fetal alcohol syndrome, some things that we've had in our kids. My son, my adopted son, and my oldest son, right? My two daughters are smart as can be, and they were naturally good academically. My two sons weren't, much like me, but I believe they worked hard to get what they got. And I think there's something to be said for that, because I think work ethic is we had a friend of mine who calls it the cheat code. The cheat code today is work ethic, right? And if you have better work ethic than anybody around you in the business you're in, you're going to do okay. You don't have to be the smartest person, but if you have that work ethic, you're probably gonna do okay. So the cheat code he calls is work ethic. Simple thing, right? But I believe my two boys have that. And I believe they'll be successful because they do have it. So again, how do you measure that? And how do we pat them on the back to say, man, you worked your butt off, and we witnessed that.
I think that's the point, though. I think that it's a virtuous cycle of what you're saying, in the sense that it's not an innate quality, especially for boys, to have a solid work ethic. I think that there's not a confidence and comfort in the fact that I know I want to go that way. Mm-hmm. There's a debate of like, am I sure I want to go that way? And good leaders have the ability to drive that work ethic, I think, with positivity and positive reinforcement and encouragement, rather than it being like, I think that's why, again, some of these coaches are good for like 2 or 3 years. They can be inspirational in some sort of militant way, and then sometimes that if you're always militant, eventually it's like, hey,
kind of wears off.
Watch my wife get like angry, and it's like, it's 4 p.m. and I'm coming home from work, or 5 p.m. It's like, and it's sort of like, I can't take it anymore, and you're like, well, you can't just keep yelling at them, because inevitably, once you've lost your temper, it's over. Like, right. The discussion has lost its meaning, because it's almost, you can be fearful. You're going to be irrational. Somehow,
if you lose your temper with every conversation, you start losing a little bit of respect. Probably.
You've lost. It's a lack of intelligence.
Absolutely.
If you get into a place, I've thought about it. Like, do I want to have a gun in my house? Yeah. And I think about myself. Like, do I have the temperament to manage having a gun in my house? Because if I get to a place where I'm that upset, or like, unless it's like just catastrophic. Can I think of a place where I'd much prefer to try to, hey, can we talk through this? And if I take a bullet, then, it's going to be what it is. But at the same time, like, think about the positives and the negatives of being ready, and ready for what? Like, we could have talked it through. We didn't need a gun, did we?
Exactly.
Think about, Trump, man. Like, I want to be supportive of him. I want to be supportive of Obama. I want to be supportive of whoever's running our country. But, like, I think it is challenging when somebody says fake media and then playing shadow games with his own Twitter. Is that is that doing as I say and not as I do? As a parent, how do I explain that to my kid?
Sure.
How can I be supportive of Trump and then have him, if he goes to school and says, well, my dad is supportive of Trump, Well, how, those are places where leadership and politics, especially, I sit there and it's like, where's the pride in that person in that office in America? And then you sit there and you back that down. It's like, well, maybe it isn't the best place. Well, why isn't, it's like.
Yeah, I think one side tends to stoop as low as the other side.
Right.
On both sides.
Which is terrible.
One side's far right, one far left, and they're both stooping to the other side in some cases in ignorance to make an example of their position, right?
So how does that explain leadership, right? Is that a recipe for a good company?
So we're terrible at understanding what leadership looks like, in my opinion, when it comes to electing people, and we're terrible because we don't have a lot of examples, in my opinion, right, of great leadership. To say, wow, that's a great leader. Here's a community organizer, never had an employee in his life, and that's the person I want to be president of my country. When you talk, that's again, it's hard to think that way, but I believe that we as leaders in business kind of understand, hopefully, what gets us to where we've gotten, and we make a lot of mistakes. We're not the greatest leaders, right? But we hopefully become pretty good leaders if we have people following us. If nobody's following us, we're probably not much of a leader.
There's a lot to be said about making those mistakes and failing and communicating those failures as well. I think that even in negotiating with China, like, can we give them a win? We made a very good deal. We won the negotiation.
Yeah.
You can't win a That's like basic stuff. And
negotiation
is breaking his arm, patting himself on the back.
Is meeting somewhere in the middle.
Support your team. Yeah. Support your team. You did a great job today. So proud of you. Like, I thank my offensive line for keeping me safe back here while I make passes.
Well, yeah, poor leadership is. Great leadership is never taking credit, and I'm guilty of that, taking credit sometimes when I shouldn't. Right, when I think it should be my credit, I'll do that sometimes, and I shouldn't. Right, good leadership is not taking credit for the wins. And always taking accountability for the failures, right? That's good leadership, and we don't see it enough, for sure. And I think in our own lives, in our own businesses, we can all get better at that, And
then can you accept failure enough, and then also have the ability to say, I'm being the bigger man, I'm accepting of this, and then not have the ability to unpack that yourself personally, so that you can move past it and know that failure was because you set out and did it. Like, you have to be accountable, but that's to stomach it is not always palatable.
Yeah.
You can only take so much loss, and you want to sit there and be like, man, he could have been better there, but you got to keep taking it like a man. You got to just keep taking the punches and bouncing back up.
Yeah, losses got to be temporary, right? And if you can look at them always as temporary losses in learning experiences, you do okay with that. And you're going to be a lot smarter than the guy that gets defeated in that loss and can't get back up. So, okay. So, Q, what you got? You got anything else to throw at this guy? We got a lot out of him, didn't we? We squeezed a lot of juice out of this orange.
Hey. Yeah, I got some true takeaways too, man. It's actually pretty good. Ryan, you're an amazing guy. Like, one of the things he said out here is like, well, he even started off, there's nothing better than a chip on your shoulder. And that's extremely true when it comes to wanting to be successful, just wanting to be anything. I guess that's where the work ethic starts at, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or even one thing you said too is put the leverage out there and take a chance. Holy cow. If you think about it, that's the opportunity to gamble, but educated gambling, as you all kind of said it. The person at 9 million sometimes won't be the person to get you to 47 million. That was good, because it lets you think about, okay, who do I have on my team now? Did we get to the highest level we could? Okay, we might need to kind of step up our game to the next level, whatever that looks like. Start with the small stuff for impact. I think everybody wants to impact huge, but like you said, you're the president of the Lincolnshire
Sports Association.
Yeah, so you're starting where it is.
It's a big job right there.
Yeah, I know it is.
A lot of unhappy parents.
Yeah, but dream big, start small. That's what he's doing, so he can do it, and he's doing it quickly. But then it started to get, obviously, if you get better, roll the dice. Gambling with enthusiasm and fun, and obviously you did that a lot of your life. But more importantly, celebrate the losses. And even as an entrepreneur, I've seen both of you all. You maybe have some losses, but the way that you all think about them is the reason why, in my opinion, why y'all still succeed, because a lot of people look at losses as a different way. But more importantly, I think this is the catalyst for you all on this podcast. Don't invest in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Invest in people, right? Invest in people. And we see you do that every single day, Ryan. I'm so thoughtful. I'm so thankful, should I say, and grateful that you're in my inner circle, man. So it's pretty cool. And yeah, I'm actually, if I could just put you and Gary like in a if I could formulate, make sure I had both of you all in my DNA, I'd be a good person.
Boy,
so it's pretty cool.
You need some safety valves there for sure, though. You do that.
There's a reason why we're here. I mean, you're a large part of me being here today. So I hope that I hope you take away something from that as well for yourself personally.
Always. I'm excited to come over to your house again.
Play some hoops whenever you're ready.
Well, Ryan, thanks for being here. Really appreciate you being here. It's an awesome another awesome Ditch Digger episode, and we appreciate you being the star of it. And Jacob, thanks for being here, and thanks for keeping his butt straight here going forward. I appreciate it. He needs the what do you call it? The governor. He needs a governor on this throttle, right? And I believe you're going to
like the governor on a golf cart.
There you go. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. For speed. I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
I can do that.
All right. Cool. Well, thanks for being here, guys.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate your time.
And we'll see you all next time on Ditch Diggers CEO.
See ya.